Yesterday, in part 1 of this series, we looked at the two faces of age is just a number, how the same phrase can be either a declaration of empowerment or a form of avoidance, depending entirely on the posture behind it. We established that biology is information, not a verdict, and that the goal isn't to deny age, but to refuse to let it write your story. That raised a deeper question, one that comes up constantly in coaching. If the phrase can mean such different things, what determines which version a person is actually living? What separates the person using it to move forward from the person using it to stay put? The answer, more often than not, comes down to one thing: responsibility. Hey there, it's me, Core, and you're listening to Exercising Self-Control from Fitness to Flourishing. In coaching, age is just a number rarely arrives as a neutral observation. It arrives loaded with history, with hope, with defensiveness, or with genuine resolve. And once you learn to listen for what's underneath it, the phrase becomes less of a statement about age and more of a window into how a person relates to their own life. The question it opens up isn't, how old are you? It's, how do you think about personal responsibility? Do you see age as a reason to step up, a reason to step back, a reason to avoid, or a reason to evolve? The answer to that question tells you far more about a person's trajectory than their birth year will. Some people say age is just a number and mean it as an act of self-authorship. What they're really saying is, I'm ready to reinvent myself. I'm not bound by the timeline I inherited. I'm choosing who I want to be now. These are people who have decided to confront reality and still choose growth. They accept the biological changes that are happening. They're well aware of the changing recovery needs or the other shifting variables. They are intentionally refusing to let those facts become the final word on what's possible. In coaching, this is fertile ground. These clients bring ownership to the work. Age, for them, is a neutral fact, not a limiting belief. They use it as context, not as a ceiling. And because they are operating from responsibility rather than avoidance, they tend to make real, lasting progress. Other people say the exact same words and mean something closer to, I don't need to adjust my habits. I don't need to think long term. I don't want to confront what's actually happening. Here, the phrase functions as a shield. They use it as a way of deflecting responsibility rather than claiming it. And what's being avoided can take many forms. Sometimes it's the discomfort of changing ingrained habits. Sometimes it's accountability for choices that have compounded over years. Sometimes, underneath it all, it's a quiet fear of mortality, of time passing and the window of opportunity closing. The phrase becomes a convenient way to dodge a harder truth. Time is passing and choices matter. Every year they matter more, not less. This isn't a judgment. It's a pattern worth seeing because you can't change a pattern you haven't recognized. In coaching, we accept the phrase, but challenge the intention behind it. The reframe that tends to open things up is simple. Your age doesn't limit you as much as how you think about your age. That single change in perspective moves the conversation from a fixed fact, your chronological age, to a workable variable, how you are thinking about it. And once a person sees that their relationship with age is something they can actually change, the whole experience shifts. Age stops being a countdown and starts being context, as it's always been. It returns to being information they can use to make better decisions, train more intelligently, and live more deliberately. That's the move from escapism to ownership. And it's available to anyone willing to ask better questions. Here are some questions you can ask yourself. What story am I telling myself about my age? Is that story expanding my life and my options or shrinking them? Am I using age to justify action or as a reason to avoid it? What identity am I protecting by telling that story? And is that who I actually want to be? The answers won't always be comfortable, but if you answer well, they'll be honest. And honest is where change begins. Once we see how age shapes our sense of personal responsibility, the next layer becomes unavoidable. The story we tell about who we are and who we are becoming. Tomorrow, the final episode in this series explores age as a narrative, a lens through which we interpret time, identity, and the possibility of reinvention. That's it for today. Catch you next time.